got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up.
So the next thing I knew, I was in a ambulance on the way to what I later found out was Vista Point Behavioral Health, a psychiatric hospital somewhere in the Jacksonville area. Really don't remember a lot in the beginning because apparently I was still drugged from whatever the Mayo Clinic was drugging me with. But I told them I was in pain from the assaults by the Portuguese police in December, and also the Amsterdam police just a week or so prior, not even a week. And they're supposed to, according to my rights, there's a poster on the wall there that says that you have a complete physical examination when you get there. And that didn't happen. I told them about my injuries. I told them about my shoulders and my neck and my collarbone, and my hips, my wrists, a lot of pain. And I was completely ignored. Received only like Tylenol and acetaminophen, aspirin, and I had to beg for that. It was like pulling teeth to get some pain medication so I could sleep, because the beds there are like 4 inches thick. It's a prison, basically. It's a prison without bars. It's just the windows are sealed up and locked. Okay. But it's a prison. 4-inch hard mattress, they call mattress, covered with plastic, and it was impossible for me to sleep. So I was severely sleep deprived for the entire week. Anyway, they put me on the most intense unit, most secure unit for some reason. And so there were people in there that were very sick, people, walking up and down the hall, saying all kinds of crazy things, people screaming. A fight broke out. Actually, oddly enough, a very nice young black man named Kelvin had been taking shit, being called a bitch from this white kid who was obviously a bit crazy. Not all there. And we're sitting in the day room, and all of a sudden Kelvin started wailing on this guy. Just had enough of him calling him bitch. I mean, I never saw arms flying so fast in my life. And this went on. I only caught about half of it by the time I was able to turn around and see what was going on. So it lasted a good 15, 20 seconds, maybe more. And the staff did nothing, absolutely nothing. Which, I was a psych tech at the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Beverly Hills. And I've worked on unlocked units with that kind of population, and you don't put up with that kind of stuff. You don't put up with violence. You don't expose other patients to that kind of thing. So once he finally calmed down, nobody intervened. Nobody in the staff intervened. Once he calmed down, they took him away, and I thought they would put him in seclusion. No, I found out. They took him next door to the least restrictive unit, okay? The one that I would eventually be on a few days later. So they rewarded him for lashing out and beating another patient. And then he was released 2 days later, I think. He was released 2 days later. Well, I sat in there, was a good patient, didn't hit anybody, didn't hurt anybody, only tried to help people who needed help, older people, sick people that couldn't do things on their own. I tried to help out as much as I could. I was participating in groups, being a good patient, because I wanted to do everything possible to get the hell out of there. But this guy, and he's a good kid, and I wouldn't want him to stay in there any longer than he had to, but it's a failure of the hospital not to protect patients in that kind of situation, and that was very bizarre. A couple other instances where they didn't, there was some very sketchy things that came out one morning, and this was on the lock unit. And there was a separate day room, a smaller day room, and apparently the door was broken. And they took red duct tape, like 4 foot, 5 foot long lengths of it, and made an X across the door, X, so nobody will go in. And I immediately saw a potential for, murder, suicide weapon. Take that tape and wrap it around somebody's neck tight enough, or around their mouth and nose, and they could be dead in a matter of a minute or two, maybe less. So I told the staff, Dennis, one of the nice guys who worked on the lock unit, I told him about it, and he said, yeah, I didn't think about that, and so they took it down. Also, all the patients had these pens. They had these little plastic pens, and it had like a felt tip on the end, but it was sharp enough and hard enough someone could jam it into their fucking aorta. Not aorta, whatever the fuck this carotid artery. Thank you very much. Brain that doesn't fucking work. And or stab another patient with it in an eyeball, or God knows what, So very dangerous situation. This place is not run properly at all, if at all. The supervision was absurd. We played music games and drew pictures and all the stuff that mental defectives do in mental hospitals. But received no physical examination when I got there like I was supposed to. Okay. A couple days later, first day I saw nobody. I didn't see a doctor or social worker or anybody. Second day I didn't see anybody. And on the third day, shit started happening. And I saw this nurse practitioner who said she was very supportive. She was going to try and get me out of there, and basically lied through her teeth. She seemed like she was on my side, but turns out she was lying to me like everybody else. She couldn't understand, and I get this, since December 7th, and even before December 7th, when I was here in the States, between, from August to October, things have been crazy as hell. My life has been crazy as hell, and it sounds probably crazy as hell. And she looked at me and says, and I told her only a very small portion of what I'd gone through. And apparently she had read some in my chart, some other stuff. But she said, I can't believe that. I said, I'm sorry. I said, are you questioning my integrity, my honor? That's about the only thing I have left in here. You're questioning me that I'm telling you the truth? And she kind of backed off a bit and ho-hummed and, so on and so forth. But at that point, I saw the writing on the wall. It's either later that day or the next day. So, like, I think the 27th was when I had my meeting with the and Kendra, the social worker, my social worker, who was totally useless, and Holly, I think her name was, or Hannah, from the social worker from next door on the unit where I eventually ended up. Also, and the second woman, she said she was a social worker, but I don't know, was a prior Marine. She said she spent 5 years in the Marines. So, we had that connection. I thought she got me, with the self-medicating with alcohol and so on and so forth, a disabled combat veteran. I thought she was fully on board on getting me out of there. Okay. They were meeting with me because the next day I was going to have, my 72 hours were up, and they were going to have a board that every patient has. They meet this panel or board or whatever they call it to determine whether you're going to leave or not. So, and also, I think it was on the second, just finally met him. He stopped me in the hall. Okay. Didn't go into a private room like I did with the other professionals. And we stood out in front of my room for about 3 minutes. And he talked. This guy likes to talk. He's the biggest asshole, the most pompous ass I have ever met in my life. The guy should not be working with human beings, much less patients who are sick. He only likes to talk. He likes to hear himself talk, and he refuses to listen. So he talked to me for about 3 minutes in the hallway. I tried to explain to him, what brought me to Jacksonville and what went down. He didn't want to hear any of that. Okay. You don't want to hear what the patient has to say. Okay. So the next day is my board, my panel, 72-hour mark. That's where they decide whether you're going to go home or if they're going to continue to hold you. So a couple minutes before my board, I'm standing out in the hallway, and Dr. Bupp again, and starts talking and telling me what's going to happen, and telling me why I'm there, and so on and so forth. And I tried to explain, but every time I tried to open my mouth, he would shut me off and shut me up and make it very clear that he didn't want to hear anything I had to say. So this was the asshole who was going to be determining my freedom or not in just a few minutes. I'm going to take a short break here, and I'll be back with the rest of this part of the story. So they bring me into this room. You sit here. Okay, like an interrogation than a medical treatment meeting of any kind. And again, I wasn't allowed to talk. And if I did say something, they would just stare at me with these blank looks. And I said, oh, this doesn't seem to be going very well. And a couple of times during that meeting, Dr. made references to my age. It was Mr. Sorrentino, you're 68 years old. What on earth are you doing in here? You're 68 years old. What happened? What are you doing in this situation? Who gives a fuck if I'm 68 years old or 38 or 88? I'm a disabled combat veteran. I got fucking issues, okay? That got me here. Got me here illegally, okay? Mayo Clinic didn't want to fucking deal with me. River Point only believes what's on the 72-hour hold, the Baker Act, or whatever they call it in Florida, paperwork, that I'm suicidal and homicidal. Okay, that's all they believe. They've seen this other paperwork, which they went through without my permission, from Amsterdam and from Portugal and from San Antonio and so on and so forth. They went through that while I was drugged up and asleep, and used all that against me. They put into this thing that I was, going around looking for. I was doctor shopping, hospital shopping. That I was discharged from the one in San Antonio against medical advice, which was bullshit. Because I went in there on my own and left just a few hours later. And I lost my train of thought, so pause. So anyway, Dr. Bati's twice told me, Mr. Sorrentino, you're 68 years old. My God, what on earth are you doing in here? That is age discrimination in the nth degree. In the nth degree, you know, what kind of comment is that to make to a patient? Like I had control over whether or not I was there or not, which was obviously untrue. So the meeting didn't go well at all. I was not allowed to speak, period. I just got cold looks from Dr. Batri and social worker Kendra and I forget, I'm so terrible with names, Hannah, Holly, the social worker next door, who turned out to be the only decent person in the place. They said, oh, we want to talk to your wife. I told them, I said, the social worker or whoever, the Marine that was here yesterday and talked to me, she asked me to call my wife. And she got the phone, and I called my wife, and she talked to my wife and asked if it was safe to go home, if I had a safe place to go to, blah, blah, blah. Well, apparently this idiot didn't pass that information on to Dr. Bati. Oh, he didn't know anything about it. And that's another big part of the problem is they obviously don't read notes. They obviously don't communicate with each other because none of them knew what the other one was doing, had no idea whatsoever. So Dr. Bati had no idea that this ex-Marine social worker, whatever, white female, had actually spoken with my wife. So he asked me to call my wife. I said, you want me to call my wife right now? My wife is on her way as we speak in probably a taxi cab to her mother's deathbed. My wife was spoken to yesterday, and your social worker, whatever, got all the information she needed. But apparently now you want me to interrupt my wife, okay? While she's in a cab, it's late at night in Naples and on her way to a hospital where her mom's on her deathbed. He said, yeah. I said, okay. So Kendra, social worker, finally gets my phone for me, and I see there's a little hallway where you come into the unit, okay, from outdoors where people go smoke. Okay, so there's a smoking area outdoors, and it's the main entrance for that unit. And then you step in through these double doors, and then there's this little area, and then there's another set of double doors that you have to go through to get into the unit. So she opens the double doors from the unit and says, you can talk to your wife in here. So I call Lisa, I tell her what's going on, tell her that Dr. Bati wants to talk to her, and start the conversation. And this nurse, this hallway that I was in is right next to the nurse's station. There's a glass, there's windows there, and a door. So this black nurse, Dennis, that's all I know is I think it's her first name is Dennis, um, opens the door and starts screaming at me. What are you doing in here? Why you can't have a phone? You're not supposed to be in here. And she starts screaming at me. And then this other psych tech, this big black guy, comes in and says, starts the same thing. Why are you in here? You're not supposed to have your phone. And I'm trying to explain to him. The doctor told me to call my wife so he could talk to her. And that Kendra put me in there, but they didn't want to hear any of that shit. And in the meantime, I was on a video call with my wife on WhatsApp, because that's the only way I could contact her in Italy. It was from my cell phone via WhatsApp. And and being raised Italian, and that's a whole nother story. I talk with my hands, so I'm, putting the phone around like this, while I'm talking, and these people are screaming at me, and they're freaking out because, it's a legal issue, apparently. It's a privacy issue, which I understand, but I didn't understand at the time. So I'm saying, trying to explain and waving these things around. Every time I did, they started freaking out, and backing off. Hey, don't do that. Getting very aggressive with me. I wish I had a copy of that video. But so it turns out they didn't let me finish talking to my wife. And when I saw Dr. Kendra in the hallway a few minutes later, I said my wife was still on the phone. I was having difficulty talking to her because these people were interrupting me and yelling at me. And he said no. So he had me call my wife. It was so important that I talked to her, while she's in the cab on her way to her mother's deathbed. But once I got her on the phone, he didn't want to talk to her. So it was a complete waste of time. I had to hang up. My wife was freaking out. She had no idea what was going on. The phone was going like this. People were screaming at me. And she's on her way to the hospital to her mom who's dying, okay? And she's got to see this. She's got to see these people freaking out, okay? And me locked in a psych hospital against my will for no apparent reason, okay? Kendra had sent her an email asking these stupid questions about, why I was there and so on and so forth. And my wife responded to this email and said, why on earth is my husband in this hospital? He went to the Mayo Clinic for help for his long COVID. How did he end up in the hospital? What's he doing there? How long has he been there? How long is he going to stay there? I'm very worried about him. Not a word. Okay. Kendra would not respond. My wife sent at least 4 or 5 emails. I've got them all. Okay. Begging for an update on my status. She's worried about her mom. Her mom's dying, had a massive stroke. And she's got to fucking worry about me in a mental hospital 5,000 miles away that I shouldn't be in. I should have been in an Airbnb that I paid for and getting help from the Mayo Clinic, but instead I'm in a mental hospital. So she's freaking out. They wouldn't give me my phone, and when they did give me my phone, the battery was almost dead. I mean, it was down to like 12%, 6%, so I could only make very limited phone calls. And they kept promising me they were going to recharge my phone, and they didn't until like the 4th day or 5th day I was in there. They finally charged it for me, and they moved me over to the. Decided I wasn't going anywhere in the meeting. They moved me over to the other unit, which is less restrictive, and that's where I met up with Kelvin again. By the way, they don't let you vape in this hospital. And so after 34 years of quitting smoking cigarettes, the only option I had, since they wouldn't give me my vapes, weren't allowed, was to smoke cigarettes. And so there were some nice techs over on the more restricted side, dentists specifically, and shit. Sorry. I know your name, but anyway, it doesn't come to me now. And it's a couple of good folks over there, the techs, and they would help me out with smokes. Take a break. So anyway, they decided to keep me for another however long, past the 72 hours. And I'd been doing some research, reading the posters on the unit and so on and so forth, and talking to other patients, and found out about this writ of habeas corpus that you file if you don't agree with the board's decision to hold you past the 72 hours, which I obviously didn't. There was no reason for me to be there. I was getting no help whatsoever. So immediately following that, the meeting, the debacle, they want to call it a healthcare meeting. I lost my train of thought again. Hold on. So anyway, writ of habeas corpus. It's a legal document, so I filled out the writ, signed it, dated it, gave it to them, got a copy. And what this writ of habeas corpus does, and unfortunately it was like Thursday late afternoon when I filed it, and they got 24 hours to file it, so it would have been filed probably late on Friday afternoon, so nothing was going to get done over the weekend on it. I did try to contact a lawyer who was totally useless and didn't give a shit less. So I sat in over the weekend instead of having a lawyer go to bat for me and get me out of there. And so once I filed this writ of habeas corpus, okay, which says that I'm going to be reevaluated by an independent psychiatrist. That's a joke. That's a fucking joke. Because the woman who ended up, evaluating me was not an independent. She was on board with Dr. Bhatti and everybody else that I wasn't going to go anywhere. And after I filed the writ, which again is going to go before the court, before a judge at some point. And I never did exactly find out what the whole process was for that, because no lawyers would call me back, and I didn't know how it worked, so never really did find out. But I was supposed to go before a judge at some point, and I made it very clear to them that I want to go before a judge. I want a judge to hear about this because you guys have not done your due diligence. You're keeping me here. You're violating my civil rights and liberties. You're holding me here against my will. And I want to go before a judge. I want to go before a judge. And I want my wife to be on that Zoom call so she can tell the judge how she's been not communicated with by, they wouldn't let her husband talk to her. The social worker ignored all her emails, begging for information. A judge would have just eaten this shit up, Okay, veteran goes to ER, pays thousands of dollars, rents a car, rents an apartment for a month, and then goes to the ER and says he wants to kill himself. Doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So once a writ is filed, that's when the everything changed. I was making it clear I was still attending everything, all the participating, being a good patient. But everything changed. That's when the retaliation started. And them not giving me my phone and letting me talk to my wife and not charging it, and not giving me my medications. I told them I needed lorazepam, and I had a bottle of lorazepam, probably 100 pills of 1 and 2.5 milligram lorazepam that I was prescribed in Portugal. Had that with me. So they knew I was on lorazepam, and I only started, after the December debacle, 1 milligram in the morning and 2.5 milligrams at night for sleep, and then I take trazodone, usually at least 100 milligrams, sometimes 200 milligrams to help me sleep. And they didn't give me any of that. They didn't give me any of my pain medication. They didn't give me the physical that I was supposed to get that was on the poster on the wall about my rights. I asked for, when I got over to the other unit, one of my rights was to review my medical record, my chart. And I asked for that and was refused. They didn't allow me to review my chart. I told them that in the middle of the night, I said, my wife is extremely upset about all this. She doesn't know what's going on. You're not communicating with her. You don't let me talk to her. She's freaking out. And they were not letting me talk to my wife. She was upset, had no idea what was going on with me whatsoever. And I'm cooperating, okay, but I'm making it very clear that I'm being held against my will, and my civil rights and liberties have been taken away, and that I want this to go before a judge. I want them to sit in a Zoom meeting and see my wife crying in Italy, worried about her mom who's dying, and her husband who's several thousand miles away, locked up in a jail for the most part. Yeah, they didn't want that happening. They didn't do their due diligence. They created this scenario based on the garbage they read from the Mayo Clinic and some bits and pieces from some of the other places that had been in Amsterdam and San Antonio and so on and so forth, and piece this thing together that I was crazy and that I was a danger to myself and others when I wasn't. And so I documented right from the time I filed the writ of habeas corpus, everything that happened. I documented the name, the date, the time. I learned how to document very well in the military. And so I've got very detailed records of what exactly happened. And I've filed a lawsuit. Well, I haven't filed a lawsuit yet, but I've contacted a civil rights attorney in Jacksonville, Florida, who's asked for the writ. I sent her the writ over the weekend. And today's Monday, and the supporting documentation along with the writ. So we'll see what happens there. I don't know if there's anything that they can do, or if anybody cares that my civil rights and liberties were violated, that I was held in prison there for 8 days, without proper care or proper review of my case. I don't even think they filed the writ of habeas corpus with the court. I think they were bluffing. I don't think they filed it at all. And so before that was found out and time was up to see a judge, they got me out of Dodge. All of a sudden, this dangerous homicidal and suicidal combat veteran is cured, is magically cured. The lawyers apparently saw the writing on the wall and said, you guys fucked this up big time. You need to let this guy out of here before we do have to go before a judge and look like idiots. So we're talking violation of my civil rights and my civil liberties, and we're also talking about a huge malpractice case against the Mayo Clinic and River Point Behavioral Health, especially Dr. Fucking asshole, the most pompous ass I have ever met in my life. Going after him first, social worker Kendra, who tormented my wife with these emails and refusing to respond. She's going to be included. Nurse Dennis, who was screaming at me on the phone, she's going to be involved. The Mayo Clinic's going to be involved. River Point's going to be involved. I don't give a shit about the money. I am fucking pissed because you can screw with me all you want. I could have done a month, 2 months, 6 months standing on my head in there. Okay, I've been on deployments in combat zones for over a year, and I could do a month in there standing on my head. So, but don't fuck with me. Okay, you can fuck with me all you want, but you don't fuck with my wife. Okay, and that's what's got me pissed off. That they put her through what they put her through. I'm getting emotional because it's not fair to her, and she's been a saint to me. She's put up with so much shit for me, and for them to put her through what they put her through, I want revenge. I want revenge on these motherfuckers. Fuck with me all you want, but don't fuck with my wife, especially when her mom's dying, you cocksuckers. So, excuse me. So it's not about the money, it's and you're going to say, oh, bullshit, yeah, I'll take the money if there's money involved, fuck yeah, and I'll donate it to whatever, buy a Lamborghini, I don't give a fuck about the money. I care about, doing what's right and these people being held accountable so that doesn't happen to somebody else, another vet or anybody. Shouldn't be locked up against their will for just merely going to an emergency room and asking for help. Okay, get your shit together, Sorrentino. Don't be a crybaby. 68-year-old men, they don't cry. They don't get locked up in mental hospitals. So, I better watch out or I'll get locked up again. So, that's kind of it in a nutshell. They finally let me out after 8 days. My rental car had been sitting in the Mayo Clinic parking lot for 8 days with my golf clubs, $2,500 set of golf clubs sitting in the back seat, all my luggage in the trunk. Got there, and apparently the security guards had turned on the hazard lights. And so when I got there, the battery was completely dead. I could not, the key did not open the car. I had to call AAA. This, nice young guy came with some equipment, was able to get into the car, popped the hood, and found out that the battery was dead. Because they were talking about towing it all the way to the Jacksonville airport because they couldn't get into it. But once we found out the battery was dead, he just he put his big charger on it, started it up, and then the alternator took care of things from there. So the car was fine. But I sat around the Mayo Clinic parking lot for over an hour, waiting for this tow truck to show up and for this guy to do his thing. So. And then I was finally able to go to a hotel and get some sleep. and I think I slept for 2 days. Free at last. Free at last. Thank God Almighty, I was free at last. Unbelievable. Unbelievable.